Hey guys, I'm the 50s kid. I'm in the middle of a job here and I'm kind of, the subject of torque wrenches has kind of come to my mind, and I just wanted to stop, shoot a quick little video just about torque wrenches. Kind of figured it was a good time to talk about them. You know, what are they? Why should you use them? When are you supposed to use them? Do you need to use them? All that stuff. So here's the thing. Torque wrenches are something that I think a lot of beginners will run out and buy because you don't really have a lot of experience, and you probably get the repair manual for your particular vehicle, and you read in there that all these different torque values for the bolts that you're going to be putting on, and you figure you want to be as precise and accurate as possible. You want to follow the steps, so you get yourself a torque wrench, and that way you can ensure that you are torquing every bolt to the correct value every time. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I would absolutely recommend that you do that. That is a great way to start out and a great way to learn. It's important to kind of learn the proper torque values. It's important to start out that way. But the thing is, a lot of professional mechanics, once you do this a lot, you kind of leave your torque wrenches aside mostly because of speed. Because you just don't have the time to look up the torque specs for every single bolt when you're putting things back together, especially a professional. They oftentimes just don't have all of the torque values in the literature that they get when they, through these services that they subscribe to. But it's just it's speed, and it's also a lack of information. But let's talk about how you use torque wrenches, or the differences between them. This is a clicker style of torque wrench. So what this does is you go ahead, the way you use it is you've got this dial on the side here. This particular one is graduated in inch pounds. Most torque wrenches are going to be graduated in foot pounds. To get inch pounds, all you got to do is multiply by 12. Okay, so inch pounds. For the particular bolt that I'm going to torque on, the torque for these down here, these are M6 bolts, 6mm bolts with 10mm heads on a BMW. That's always going to be 7 foot-pounds, actually like 7.4 or something, because it's 10 Newton meters. Newton meters are the metric units that we that we should be using here in America, but we still aren't for some reason. The conversion to that, you can find that online. Just look at Google. Pull out your phone and look at Google. You'll find the answer. But 10 Newton meters converts to 7.4 foot-pounds or 84 inch-pounds. Okay. Now the thing is, I could use my 3/8 drive torque wrench to do that. This is the smallest one I have that's graduated in foot-pounds. I can dial this thing to 7.4 foot-pounds, but the thing is, it only starts at 5 foot-pounds. And the thing about torque wrenches are that they're most accurate in the middle of their range. This one goes between 5 and 80 foot-pounds. So it's going to be most accurate around the 40 foot-pound range. So that means that if we use this thing and we set this on like about 5 foot-pounds, it's probably not going to be very accurate. In fact, most of these actually start at 10 foot-pounds, most of the torque wrenches of this size. So it's not recommended to use this particular torque wrench at the bottom of its range, because it's really not going to be very accurate. Whereas this inch-pound torque wrench, I told you it was 84 inch-pounds, right? Well, this one runs from 20 inch-pounds all the way up to 200 inch-pounds. So you can tell that 84 inch-pounds is right in the center for this thing. So we're going to dial this thing around. Basically how this works is you got the 0 on the dial right here, and basically when that is aligned with the center of this graduation right here, wherever the little line is, that's your reading. So you can see this line is basically on the 80. The 80 has, hopefully we can see this, the 80 has like a little line. It goes out and it goes down. Let me kind of back off a little bit so you can see that. So you can see the 80 is right there, and there's where you need to be. So when you got the 0 right underneath the 80, that's like 80 foot-pounds. Obviously, if you go a little more, there's the 5 on this dial, that's 85 foot-pounds. That would be 90 foot-pounds. 80 plus 15, that would be 95 foot-pounds. And then you've come back to the 0, now you're on the 100. So all you got to do is count up. It's really pretty easy to figure out. So if we back this back down to 80, align the 0 with the center right there, and then go to 4. That's 84 foot-pounds. Now you can turn this dial at the bottom to lock that in. That locks you in. And the way you use this is, this is a clicker style, so it's gonna click once you reach the proper torque. So you just, you give it some torque, and you see how it kind of clicked over? Once it clicks over, that's your cue to stop. You don't wanna keep going, because once it clicks and it breaks over, if you keep going, you're over torquing. So that's when you just stop. These bolts I had already kind of torqued by hand, so I knew they were good. So this is how you do it. This is, you just go like that and you click over. That's how you torque things on. Now it's just that easy. Let's talk about this style torque wrench real quick, just so you can kind of know all the options out there. This is a digital style torque wrench. This one has like a load sensor inside of it. This one doesn't click. This one instead, you kind of dial in the torque settings you need, which I don't really like this particular wrench. I've done a video on it. I'll link it in the description. It's really awkward to use. It's hard to kind of change the torque settings that you want to do each time, but it's nice. It does have, you know, Newton meters and foot-pounds. You can switch between the two, and inch-pounds, I believe. So it's really nice, but this one does not click. Instead, this one actually beeps and the light flashes as you're getting close. So it's going to be like red when you're not there as you start to get some load on it, and then it'll go to yellow, and then it'll go to green, and it'll, you know, it'll start beeping. It'll go beep, 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 beep. Once you hear the steady beep, once you see the green, you're there. But the thing is, because it doesn't click, there's no like physical sort of motion that kind of like lets up yeah, the thing about a clicker style torque wrench is once you get to the proper point and it clicks over, that kind of gives you this sort of this physical sensation, and you know when to stop pushing. But with this one, all you hear is an auditory sensation, and no matter how fast you stop pushing, the dial is always going to tell you that you went just a little bit over. You went a couple of foot-pounds over or under, which really doesn't matter that much. But my perception is that maybe I get a little more consistency with the clicker style torque wrench, because I physically know, my muscle knows to react and stop pushing. I don't know, maybe that's just me. But this is the big guy that I use when I put engines back together for torquing head bolts and stuff like that. These are the ones that you would get if you're putting just engine components back together. You'll get one of these, you know, 40, anything between like 20 and I don't know, 20 and maybe 70 foot-pounds you do with this kind of thing. You want to get a bigger style torque wrench, a 1/2-inch style torque wrench when you're torquing on your lug nuts. Important there. And then a small clicker style torque wrench if you're really nervous about all these little 10mm fasteners, you know, especially like the valve cover bolts. Same kind of torque there. See how it clicks over and it doesn't move anymore? So that's what you want to do. Now, last thing I want to say about torque wrenches is every bolt that I've ever snapped off has been with a torque wrench. Why? Because I've set the setting wrong. And look at this. Look at how long this thing is. That's way longer than your normal ratchet. So this is the size of your normal 1/2-inch ratchet. You can see this one is twice as long. It needs to be that long because it needs to be able to give you 200 inch-pounds of torque. So they make them long enough for the maximum torque that they need to deliver. But because they're so long, that means that you're gonna have enough power to snap that bolt off if this thing is not set correctly. And trust me, it happens all the time. You get the wrong torque specs from the internet, or you just set the thing wrong. You know, it's actually kind of confusing to set these things. Sometimes it can be a little confusing. You might not know exactly where you are. Are you on 40 or are you on 60 right here? You can see the 40 is just barely beginning. That is a real common mistake. It is so easy to set these things incorrectly. It's a little bit harder with the 1/4-inch one because it goes in increments of 20, but the 3/8 one goes in increments of 10. This one is so hard to, you know, sometimes it can be really hard. It can be really confusing. You can think that, actually this one goes in 5s, but some of them come in 10s. You could think that you're on 40 when you're really on 50, and you go to put torque on and you got 10 foot-pounds too much. That's enough to snap a bolt off. Every bolt I've ever snapped off has been with a torque wrench. So what I'm basically trying to say there is that you eventually want to get away from torque wrenches because they just kind of, you don't really need them most of the time. After you've been doing this for a little while, you just start to develop the feel. You kind of know ahead of time when you're over tightening some, or you know over time, you learn over time when you're over tightening something, you can feel when it's about to snap off. And if you are using a torque wrench and you're thinking, oh, that thing hasn't clicked yet, I guess it's not torqued properly, I better keep going, even though it feels like I should stop, that's the time when you're going to snap those bolts. So what I'm saying is, it's time to ditch the torque wrenches after a little while and just kind of learn the proper feel for torquing something. You can get the feel of it after a while. This is my main ratchet. It's a long ratchet, so I have the power to snap something off, but I know I've learned the hard way enough times that I know that, you know, when I'm torquing something like a small fastener on, I just choke up on the ratchet. I don't go out here and get all the torque and all the power. I choke up on it and turn it into a smaller ratchet. I kind of do it that way. And I just know by feel how much I'm putting on. And most of the time when you're torquing fasteners, especially little ones, what really matters is that you get even torque across them, especially when you're tightening something that has a gasket, you know? You just want to get even torque all the way around. And that's, you know, usually the most important thing. Of course, you want it to be tight enough that it's not going to come loose. And things like spinning pulleys are really important in that aspect. So until you get that feel, absolutely, by all means, go ahead and go for a torque wrench. But my point is, you should be learning the feel as you're doing this. And as you're using your torque wrench, it will teach you what that feel is. You're going to learn as you do this over time. So don't always use the torque wrench. Use your normal ratchet, whatever you like to use, and just kind of learn the feel. Learn how much torque is necessary, what the feel is like. Start doing it by hand after a little while, and you really will develop those skills. So anyway, that is it, guys. That's everything on torque wrenches. I just thought it'd be a quick little video. Hopefully it was interesting. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more. I'm the 50s Kid. Thanks a lot for watching.